A huge storm is coming to the United States, and this is going to bring the coldest weather that we've seen so far this season to a large chunk of the country. It'll bring the return for some severe weather, the potential for a winter storm, and also the first snowfall this season across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and as well as the Northeast. And we'll also be talking about the tropics, as we are likely to see a tropical storm and probably even a hurricane develop in the Caribbean Sea over the next few days. And this is more than likely going to be on track for Florida as we go into next week. So let's begin with what's happening across the country this morning. For the time being, we do have a large-scale trough that has been moving across the Ohio Valley that is bringing some showers across areas in the Ohio Valley and the Northeast this morning, and that'll continue to move to the Northeast. Right behind that is dry and warm air, and we are going to be dealing with this probably for the next several days all the way through the weekend before that large storm impacts a huge part of the country. Also back over in the Pacific Northwest, we are continuing to see atmospheric rivers that is pummeling plenty of snow and rainfall to areas in Washington, Oregon, and even back into Northern California. And this right here is potential tropical cyclone 19, which is expected to become tropical storm Sarah later today. This is moving towards Central America right now and is expected to intensify close to a hurricane sometime over the next 48 hours. Now let's talk more about that large storm that'll be impacting the United States as we go into next week. To begin with, this is the jet stream. Right now, we do have a big dip over in the Pacific Northwest and back over on the West Coast. That is a trough that is bringing some showers and also some snowfall to the Pacific Northwest right now. We also have a trough that is weakening back over in the Northeast, and then ridging that is occurring back over in the Southern Plains, and that is going to build warm and dry air for the weekend. So if you have any weekend plans in Texas or Louisiana, you'll probably be dealing with mostly warm and dry conditions. As we go into the late weekend and into early next week, that is when we're going to be seeing a large storm develop, and this is what's going to be moving across the Rocky Mountains. Notice it's actually going to be a negatively tilted trough. That could actually bring a little bit of severe weather on Monday to areas in the central and southern plains. So definitely going to be something to watch for there. But as this trough grows in size and intensifies, we are going to be seeing the potential for a multi-day winter weather event when it comes to snowfall across the northern and central plains and also back through the Midwest. And then eventually this will move towards the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. But notice how strong the winds are going to be on the east side of this trough. We're going to have a jet streak right here. If you are flying east to west Tuesday or Wednesday, you're going to be dealing with a lot of turbulence due to all the very strong winds aloft. But the other thing meteorologically wise that we're going to be dealing with is, again, a lot of rain as well on the east side of this trough, and also cold air will be dipping down out of Canada, and that is all going to build into a large cold air mass that is going to impact a big part of the country as we go into the middle and end of next week. Eventually, by the time we go into Thursday into Friday, just notice how this trough does not move much. It's barely going to be moving to the northeast, which is going to allow this thing to continue to dump plenty of rain and snow for many areas, again, across the northern tier of the United States. And eventually by the weekend, this thing could still be spinning just north of the Great Lakes, which may produce some lake effect snow back over in areas like Lake Erie. So definitely gonna be something to watch for here over the next 7 to 10 days, and almost undoubtedly going to be the biggest storm that we've dealt with thus far in November. Here are the temperature anomalies. Notice this large cold air mass. It's not really that large, at least through the weekend, but this thing is going to grow in size as we go into next week. Look at this thing right over the central and southern plains by Tuesday into Wednesday. That is going to bring some really cold air to areas like Texas and then back through the Midwest, at least for this time of the year. And then notice well above average temperatures all the way back over in Canada, where many areas will likely be shattering record high temperatures. Another thing that's interesting is as we go into the weekend, we could get another little pocket of cold air coming out of Canada that squeezes between the two warm air masses in Canada. And what this might end up doing is bringing another cold shot of air to areas in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley by next weekend. So definitely going to be something to watch for there as well. It is likely going to be pretty cold here across much of the United States as we go into the later half of next week and eventually into the weekend. Now let's break this down into more simplistic terms by looking at the future radar for the next few days, beginning with today and tomorrow. Again, notice how things will be staying mostly dry across the lower 48. By Saturday into Sunday, there will be a small clipper system that moves through the upper Midwest, other than just some passing showers. I'm not too concerned about that. The Pacific Northwest will continue to deal with atmospheric rivers over the next few days, which will penetrate several inches of rainfall and also heavy snow to the higher elevations both Saturday and Sunday. This is by Monday morning. Notice how a trough is going to really build here in the central and southern plains. Plenty of showers and thunderstorms, and the potential for severe weather will grow as we go into Monday, as this moves across areas like Oklahoma, Texas, and as well as Kansas. I don't really feel like this will be a full-blown outbreak despite this being a negatively tilted trough, but it is definitely still something to watch for. If the ingredients are better as we go into Monday, I definitely could see there being a potential for an outbreak, but right now the ingredients do not look that fantastic right now for Monday. As we go into Monday into Tuesday, notice how that continues to move to the north and northeast. We'll start our winter storm threat across the northern and central plains on Tuesday. That'll be mostly for North and South Dakota. By Wednesday, that cold air is all going to be ushering in from the backside of this trough and is going to be moving into areas like Texas and Louisiana, and you'll see that here in just a moment. Rain is going to start to increase across the Ohio Valley, which, by the way, those areas desperately need rainfall with the drought that they're currently in. Snow will continue across the northern and central plains on Wednesday. By Thursday, things do become a little bit more uncertain when it comes to who is going to be seeing snow and rain and how much snow will even fall, but it is at least a chance right now that we are going to see some snow mingle here into the Midwest as we go into Thursday night. And then by the time we go into Friday into Saturday, the trough will be probably north of the Great Lakes, and since the water temperatures are going to be warm in the Great Lakes, this should promote a pretty good amount of lake effect snow. Where that exactly sets up, again, is very uncertain since we're 7 days out, but this is definitely going to be something to watch for. And the GFS model does go a little bit crazy. It does show some snow showers back over in Oklahoma and Texas as we go into late Saturday. Again, this is well over 8 days from now, so things are definitely going to change here, but it is something obviously to watch for. I would say right now it's a very low chance that Oklahoma sees snow, especially this early in the season, but definitely something to still watch for. And then eventually as we go into the following week, I think things will calm down just a little bit. However, we could see again another shot of cold air, and that could bring even more snowfall potential to areas in the Midwest and as well as the Central Plains. Now, rainfall accumulation is one thing that's a little bit easier to predict here. We are likely to see again several inches of rain, especially in the red shaded area across the northern and central plains over the next 7 days. Areas like Ohio that desperately need rainfall, look at this, upwards of 1 to 3 inches of rainfall for most of Ohio and West Virginia as we go throughout the next 7 days. Now, one thing that is very hard to predict over 5 days out is snowfall, but I just want to kind of give you an early look at where we might be seeing snow between now and next weekend, which again is a 9-day time frame. This obviously is still relatively uncertain, but the GFS model absolutely highlighting a pretty significant winter storm in areas like North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska, and even back into Minnesota, we could see several inches of snow next week. Here's where there's a lot more uncertainty, is in this box right here. Will we be seeing snow, and how much snow is going to fall? It's too early to tell, but I do think there's a good chance that we are going to see some significant lake effect snow sometime by the tail end of next week and into the weekend. So definitely something to watch for there. Could we see several inches of snow even inland in areas like Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio? Sure, but again, it's just too early to tell really with this particular trough since we are just so far out again. Here's what the temperatures look like for the next several days. These are the temperature anomalies at the surface. So the numbers that you're seeing here are the difference between normal temperatures in terms of Fahrenheit. So notice as we go into this weekend, temperatures are basically 10 to 15 degrees above average anywhere east of the Rocky Mountains. But as we go into the beginning of next week, that is when things are going to start to change. Below average temperatures across the Rocky Mountains. And eventually by the time we go into Wednesday, cold temperatures will start to really usher into areas like the central and southern plains. And eventually by the time we go into Friday into Saturday, that'll probably be the two coldest days of the entire week next week across the central and southern plains. Eventually by the time that we go into the late weekend and into early the following week, that is when we could get another shot of cold air back over in the northern plains. But again, I want to remind you that this is just too early to tell where this is going to be exactly taking place and if it even takes place since it's well over 7 days out. I also want to point out that this will make it to Florida. So if you're back down in Florida, many areas will be as much as 10 to 15 degrees below average by the time we go into Friday. Now here's what the actual temperatures are currently looking like as we go into Wednesday afternoon. Notice many areas in the Midwest and even down into Oklahoma with high temperatures only in the 30s and 40s. This is what it looks like Thursday morning. So below freezing temperatures will be possible in areas like the Texas Panhandle, rural areas of Arkansas and Oklahoma, and then anywhere basically in the central and northern plains. By the time we go into Friday, that'll be probably stretching down further to the south. So areas like Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky could be seeing their first freeze of the season. So just something to keep a close eye on. Again, not guaranteed to see it, but at least for right now, the early trend is showing that it'll be definitely a little bit cold there. And then by the time we go into Saturday, that freezing line is all the way down into Oklahoma, Arkansas, and even back over into the Texas Panhandle, and even back over into the Ohio Valley. So again, a trend to monitor. Obviously, again, this could go further north or south for that freezing line. We don't know where it's going to be since it's over 7 days out. However, even as we go into Sunday, the GFS model thinks that this is going to go all the way down into central Alabama and Mississippi, which, by the way, not very common for the middle or end portion of November. We usually don't see that until really January. Well, now we need to talk about the tropics, as we do have potential tropical cyclone 19 that is sitting right now in the western Caribbean Sea. Obviously, this is something that is really not that close to the United States right now, but I am concerned that we are going to be dealing with at least a tropical storm or some sort of disturbance in Florida as we go into next week. This is the National Hurricane Center forecast. I want to tell you right off the bat, there is a lot of uncertainty here. This could very easily change, or they could be spot on right on the money. It's very hard to tell right now. A lot of the models, again, are all over the place with the current track of this, but right now they are indicating that this will be a tropical storm as it moves towards Honduras, and this will be a significant rainfall maker, by the way. Many areas expected to pick up upwards of 20 inches of rain in Honduras over the next few days, as this tropical storm will be basically stationary there. And then eventually, as we go into early next week, the current thinking is that this will be moving over the Yucatan Peninsula. Notice, though, the cone of uncertainty is relatively large. If this goes on the most easterly path here, we could easily see a major hurricane. If it goes right into the Yucatan Peninsula, this will probably weaken into a tropical storm or depression, and then eventually move towards Florida. But any way we put it at this point, I think there's a good chance that this will be moving in the direction of Florida as we go into next week. However, no formation has happened yet when it comes to a tropical cyclone. It is still a potential tropical cyclone, not officially a tropical cyclone. Until it's a tropical cyclone, we don't exactly know where this will be going, so obviously make sure you're staying tuned to the channel and subscribe down below if you've not already. And to give you an idea of the intensity and as well as the track of this, notice again, a lot of the ensemble members are flirting with Central America and the Yucatan Peninsula as we go throughout the next 5 days. And again, if that does end up happening, we're going to see more of a westerly and northerly track, which means that this will more than likely be some sort of just disturbance or maybe a tropical storm as this heads towards Florida. There is still a chance, though, again, notice some of these red and orange lines, that would indicate potentially a hurricane heading towards Florida as we go into the early and mid portion of next week. Again, it's a lower chance right now, but if it does take a more easterly path, it has a much better chance of being a hurricane. But at this point, there's very little that is showing that this will not be heading towards Florida. Again, there's a chance that this could swirl around a little bit. It could go more inland and just die out. But at this point, I am pretty confident that we are going to be seeing something that's going to or at least try to head in the direction of Florida as we go into the middle of next week. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.